Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
Hello, and this week's first episode is Mercy. Lionel and Martha are caught in a Saw-like scenario. Then in Fade, Clark saves a man's life, but was it the right life to save? This is the Smallville Chronicles. All right, welcome back. I'm Lou Gonzalez. Here, as always, is with me is Alan Muir.
Finally, we're almost out with the season.
Yeah, we have like one more pair of episodes after these two, and we can move on to season 6, and we'll be over halfway done with the series. We have a really good episode and an okay episode, I guess, this week. The first episode, I think, is really awesome. Because it's kind of a Clark, like not Clark-less, but it's like a very like Clark's not super involved, and I think that like plays really well to the episode as well. So it's just like two really good actors just like crushing it
And bouncing off each other.
Yeah. So the first episode is season 5, episode 19, Mercy, and we start with Lionel's on a business call. Well, he's reading the Daily Planet, something about Martha Kent on it. He fires everyone on the phone. Then we see like the partition goes up, and on his little TV screen, somebody has like a tinfoil mask.
Yeah, that's the thing that really kind of. I mean, well, I can see at the time it would have been.
Is that like cost effective?
Yeah, it's very cost effective, but it just loses anything you would have tried to go for.
Yeah, especially when you're watching it in HD, like it looks really goddamn goofy. But I feel like it kind of is like, it was like a cheap way to make like an Anarchy mask. Like it reminds me of Anarchy very much with like his hood and everything. But basically the guy's like, all the doors lock at the limo, and he parks the car. I say he, but the guy parks the car on the train tracks, and basically he's like, you have to play this hangman, otherwise you're gonna die. And so Lionel just starts guessing letters, and eventually it says no mercy, and the door's unlocked. He jumps out, and the train hits the car, which explodes.
Another lost car,
which would have done like way more damage. Like that train probably would have been derailed, and like whoever's on it would be dead. So
yeah, they gave absolutely zero fucks about that. They just let it went along with their day. Like, oh, this person probably has something going on, but we're just gonna move on.
Yeah. And so Lionel walks into Smallville, and then it says like having fun yet on the sign, which is 2006, so this is very much post Saw world. Because when was the first Saw? It had to be like close to around this time, maybe the second one. First Saw was 04, so this is by the time they're out like Saw 3 or 4 at this point. So yeah. We get like a quick scene where Clark tells Chloe he thinks Lionel knows the secret, and then Lex is playing chess at the mansion, and Lionel's like, "Oh, like real fun game that you did with the event this morning," and Lex is like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he's just like, "Yeah, any attack on you is an attack on Luthor Corp," and basically tells Lionel it's not him.
Yeah, the exact line was, "You're far too valuable as an asset to lose." Which is very cold and very like Lex Luthor comic type of thing to say.
Yeah, but it's also like that's where their relationship is at this point.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Clark goes in the house, and he's talking to Martha, and she tells him finally about like the blackmail scheme with the Warehouse 15, and that Lionel helped clear it up. And he's like, "Yeah, but I think Lionel knows what's going on." So from here, there's somebody checking Lionel's office for like bugs, I guess. And Lionel's being a dick to him. The guy leaves, and then the aluminum foil face appears on his laptop, and it's like, "Oh, you're like," says one of his rude comments. So Lionel knows that there's obviously something being surveilled, and basically the guy says, "I can see everything," and then all the lights turn off. And Lionel grabs his gun and calls 911, only to hear like the tinfoil face answer. And the guy knocks Lionel out, and it's like, "Would you want to play a game?" Like, it's ridiculous how much of like a Saw ripoff it is at times, but it works really well. So we cut to Lionel gets up in a dark room, he lights a match, and there is a charred corpse on the ground. He screams and drops the match, and all like these TVs turn on, and basically that like people, the guy says like you've destroyed people with your greed, and then like a bright light shows on Lionel, and there's 2 buckets of liquid, which I guess is supposed to be like kerosene.
Yeah, because Lionel puts his finger in and smells it, and the Saw ripoff guy makes some witty remark about it not being water or some.
Yeah, it's like oil or like kerosene or something. So it's basically he's like, you need to walk. I think he says like the guy that's dead was the limo driver, right?
Yeah.
And it's like basically he needs to walk with the buckets across a thing.
The scales of justice.
Yeah, with them across his shoulders. But if he doesn't do it within 10 minutes, like the flames are going to burn him anyway. But if he like drips the stuff, it's going to make the flames shoot up. So, yeah. And then we cut away to Lex is playing Lana and Chet's at the mansion. She asks Lex why like he hasn't mentioned their kiss. Lex is like, it's a memory that I'll always have. Their conversation, and then they get a phone call, and Lana leaves. She goes to Petropolis. Lex answers the phone in the other end to make sure no one, telling the person basically on the other end that like no one can know that Lionel's missing. And then we cut back to the flame room, and Lionel gets through the thing, and the figure is mocking him, but he's able to get through it. He goes into another room where it's like, all right, it's time for another game, but this time you'll need a partner. And Martha's in like a soundproof tank. It's like a tube, isn't it? Like enough for her to like stand in. And it starts filling with water, and they're trying to like figure out and talk to each other, but they can't. And there's a switch that lets them talk, but he can't shatter the chamber. And there's a sign that says a toad-like fever spelled out, and he must it's like an anagram. And if he doesn't figure it out, Martha's gonna die. Which again, this is like, it's really coolly laid out, and they do this stunt as we get to it very well. Like, she's in that tank.
Yeah.
So Clark and Chloe at the Daily Planet talking about Lionel. They get a call from Lois, and Lois is like, yeah, Martha never showed up to the fundraiser. So Chloe and Clark go to Lionel's office, where Lex is like asking the play to search the security videos, and Clark's like, what the hell is going on? And Lex was like, Lionel was taken from his office. Last thing he tried to do was make a call to 911, and then there's a gap in the security. And Clark finds he x-rays the room, and he's like, what about this? Like, he does like that weird Clark thing where he's like, oh, these statues are weird. Like, what's up with them? And
yeah,
Lex is like,
one of them is chipped, and Lex says Lionel will never keep something like in that condition in his office, and he smashes it and reveals that there's a bug?
Yeah, it's a bug in there. So then we cut back to Martha and Lionel trying to solve the puzzle while the tank is filling up, and it's like halfway full, and they can't figure it out. And yeah, like they're just trying to solve this. Then it cuts back to Chloe's trying to hack the device, which I guess she can do. This is the beginning of making Chloe kind of like
Oracle.
Yeah, Oracle. What Felicity is to Arrow, like the tech MacGuffin.
Yeah, or what Cisco is
to Flash. Yeah, but at least like Felicity and Cisco, it's like the characters have a background where it makes sense. Chloe's like in high school still, and she's apparently a hacker.
College.
Oh, she's in college, yeah. And she's apparently like a master grade hacker as opposed to Lex's security team. So they're trying to figure it out. Lex goes to take a call, and Chloe's like, oh, I found the average address is 5 miles away. And then Lex comes in and it's like, all right, I'll drive. Like, I can get there faster. Clark's like, shit. Like, he can't just like run off.
And the thing about this episode, or this particular part of the episode, Lex tries to extend an olive branch.
Yeah, because basically he's like, yeah, like both of our parents are in this situation, and
like try to find some
common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. This is definitely still like Lex's like final kind of attempts at like
before his descent.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say it.
Well, Well, there's the episode where everything happens in season 7 is literally called Descent.
Mm-hmm. So we cut back to Martha and Lionel, and they're trying to figure it out. And basically, they come up with the phrase "to dare to fake evil." Although they're like, "What the hell does that mean?"
Yeah, and Lionel's told he has to shift his perceptions, and they eventually discovered or realize it's an anagram.
Yes, for failed takeover.
Yeah, and Lionel's screaming, "Failed takeover, Apex, Apex," and the tube explodes, or not explodes.
It shatters.
It shatters, and Martha falls out.
Yeah,
and Lionel holds on to Martha, like embraces her and tells her everything's gonna be okay. And Saw Guy basically just scoffs at Lionel showing emotion towards another person.
Yeah, and basically they run into, like, the door opens, they run into the room, and then the floor gets electrified just as they leave, but then the door locks.
Yeah, because the guy says, or at first Martha, I think it was either Lionel or Martha, they say, "For all we know, we could be walking into another trap," and they get the reply is, "Too late. Floor was actually going to be electrified."
Yeah, he's forcing them to move on. So yeah, they go into the room, they take stairs, and then they get into an elevator. The elevator locks them in and goes all the way up to the tippy top of the building. And Martha's like, "What the hell is Apex? And why did he need to teach Lex a lesson?" And Lionel replies that Apex was basically this consortium that Lionel was part of, and he was using it to try to get LuthorCorp back. But in the process, like, many of the people that invested lost everything. And he was trying to teach Lex, like, a hard lesson, hoping he would rediscover his humanity. But Martha just is like, "Why couldn't you just, talk to him?" And he's like, "That's not what Luthers do."
Yeah, he says a line, I forgot what it was about it. He says, like, my relationship with Lex isn't like Jonathan's with Clark.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, the figure shows back up on the TV, and there's a box that opens that has a gun in it. And he's basically like, either you need to kill Martha, or Martha needs to kill Lionel, or Lionel needs to kill Martha, and whoever does it lives and gets to go on. But if one of them isn't dead, the cable's going to explode, and it's going to drop, and they're both going to die. So we go back to Chloe's at LuthorCorp and on the phone with Clark. They enter the dark building with Lex, and they look around the building. They can't find anybody, but all they find is a TV that has a piece of paper that says "Game Over." Clark takes the paper off the TV and finds a video of the elevator where Martha and Lionel being held captive. Lex and Clark look on, as Lionel is like telling Martha that she should live because Clark is a very special boy. He depends on her, especially now that Jonathan's gone. Even though Lionel continues urging Martha to shoot him, she can't do it. So this is actually like one of the best scenes, I think, in the series.
Yeah, it's great acting by both Ned O'Toole and John Glover.
Yeah, so he like rips the gun from her, and like at first they're like, "Holy shit, he's gonna like kill her," and then instead he takes the gun and puts it under his chin.
And Ned O'Toole like screams.
Yeah, because he pulls the trigger and it's empty. And Lex and Clark, at this point, like the video feed goes away. And Chloe's like, they're being held somewhere across town.
Just
Lex is talking to and Lex is talking to a security team, and Clark's like, "Oh, finally, he's not looking, so I'm gonna fucking bolt."
Yeah, and the look that Lex gives just says everything about the relationship between him and Clark.
Yeah, to me, I read it as like he's like, "Oh, I was expecting this to happen. I was wondering when this would happen." Like he's almost like not surprised. At least that's how I took it.
Well, if you remember on Inside of You, he openly admitted that he never read.
We're
the Clark stuff.
So on his most recent episode, Rosenbaum's most recent episode of Inside of You that he did with Mel, which there's like a big part of it that everyone's talking about because Mel has like a panic attack on it. But Rosenbaum reveals something really interesting, that he purposely didn't want to know anything besides what Lex would know. So,
which that stemmed from like what Christopher Walken said, that he didn't like to read scripts.
Yes. Well, Christopher Walken's a crazy person, but yes.
Yeah.
Because he also takes out all the punctuation in scripts too.
Yeah.
So Clark runs off. Then we see like the tinfoil guy shows up and reveals that he was never going to let them go and that everything was rigged. And he takes off the mask. And Lionel's like, who are you?
Lincoln Cole.
He's like, yeah, remember that guy who was looking for electronic devices? That was me.
Yeah, and he berates him for not being able to tell, like, for like not being even like being remotely aware that.
Yeah, it's the same bit that they use. I can't remember if we got into the episode with Colby Smulders.
Yeah, we did that episode.
Yeah, it's basically the same idea. It's like these people, like people are such nothings to you that you can't even remember them. Every show does it like all the time. Like I've been like rewatching Lucifer, and they do that in one of the episodes too. They not to Lucifer, but to somebody else. So, but Lionel begs to let Martha go, and he like is like, "I'm sorry," and he's like, well, screw you," and hits the button and blows the cable. Hark enters the building and X-ray visions and sees the elevator falling, which technically that would only take like 20 seconds for it to fall, probably something like that. So it's actually falling like a lot slower than it should be. But he flies through a wall, not figuratively flies. He runs really fast through a wall and catches the elevator. And then Lionel and Martha are looking down as Clark is holding it up. So if Lionel didn't know, now he knows. So
yeah, I just want to read something that I noticed in the notes section. It says Clark stopping the elevator instantly without slowing it down, before, would cause the same result as crashing onto the ground.
Yeah, because it's not the fall that kills you; it's the sudden stop.
Yeah. And in the comics,
he could do it if he like cushioned it. Like he would have to like slow it down, like in a way he could do it, but like he definitely doesn't do that here.
Yeah, in the comics, he has tactile telekinesis.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's never. They never actually like.
Because in Superboy, Connor had that, right? Like full on.
I believe so.
I'll have to look that up. I don't remember ever reading that, but that's interesting. I guess that's a way to get around how so many people would die from like the way he flies and like grab stuff.
Yeah.
So we go to the Kent farm. Martha tells Clark that it wasn't Lionel's fault, and Clark's like, "Yeah, okay, I don't believe you." Even though like he saw that Lionel was going to sacrifice himself, he's like, "I still don't think I can trust him." And Martha's like, well, we don't really have a choice anyway, but I think we can. Lionel's looking at the gun in his building, and Lex enters and tells him that the figure was a man named Lincoln Cole. He didn't care if he was caught. He just wanted Lionel dead.
Yeah. The line that really got me was when he had learned what happened, what Lex says when he was told that Lionel was alive, that if the police had to sedate him.
Yeah. I do like that this guy was just like out, like he wanted to prove a point and kill him, and for Lionel to know who killed him in many ways. And then Lex is like, "What do you mean that Clark was a special boy?" And Lionel's like, "Just stop like being weird about stop being weird about Clark, Lex. I was like trying to talk to her because like, you know, you're different, you're older, like you're grown up, like you can take care of yourself." And he kind of does like he kind of hand waves it away. And basically also criticizes Lex. Is like, you're really going to concentrate on that. But the big thing is, this is give away the secret.
Yeah. The exact line he gives. He's the type of son a father can be proud of.
Oh yeah, so cutting.
that exact line, like the episode I mentioned, Descent. Lex references that line, and God, it's just so perfect.
Mm-hmm. So then we have the second thing, which is Clark visiting the office, and Lionel reveals like, "Yeah, I've known about your secrets since I had the crystal in my hand when they went off and from the last season, and I haven't told you because it would change your destiny and it would hurt Martha." Clark's like, "Yeah, I'm still like suspicious, and that you knew that the gun wasn't loaded because you would have known what like the weight of the gun." So he was like putting on a show. Is basically what Clark is saying.
Can I mind if I just say his exact line when like Clark is like, "Why didn't you reveal my secret?" What? Tell him that you're some strange visitor from another planet, which is basically from the opening credits of the Adventures of Superman series.
Yeah, and then basically Clark tells him to stay away from his mom, and then this is where we get like the foreshadowing. So Clark leaves, and Lionel gets like a headache, and then drops to his knees and starts writing furiously on his desk. Which I don't remember. Do they reveal that it's Kryptonian here?
Not in this episode.
Okay, because yeah, that's basically what it is, though.
Yeah, because like it starts to pan out as like before you can actually see any like notable symbols or words.
Because I don't think the whole thing doesn't really hit until next season. I feel like when he becomes like what is he? He's like Jor-El's vessel or something.
Yeah.
All right, but otherwise, like, kind of that's the end of the episode. This is a pretty good episode. There's some awesome acting moments for John Glover. Yeah, it's pretty good episode, and it's very much a very little Clark, very little Lex. Like, there's almost like none of that. It's just really the two of them.
I just have to say that I'm really sad because it's like this is the last episode where Lionel has like a lot of screen time.
No, he has other episodes where he has decent amount of screen time, but he becomes more of a secondary character moving forward, especially as they keep introducing more and more characters. Starting with season 6 is where we get like a bigger explosion of characters coming in with like Jimmy and Oliver coming next season.
Yeah, this was a fantastic episode.
Mm-hmm.
Lily Streg with the Apex name. In the comics, the original Green Lantern Alan Scott worked as an engineer for Apex Radio.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, yeah, like I would definitely, I guess if I was to grade this, I would give this episode like an A-. It's really good. It's just like there's a little bit of like if that mask was like a little bit better and if they would have worked out like a couple of little things, it would have been perfect. But like those couple of scenes are like scenes I would show to people if I did to show why there are points in Smallville that are awesome.
Yeah, and the visual of Lionel dodging the train, that is going to be part of or from season 6 onwards, gets added to the Smallville like opening reel.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can move on to our second episode, which is Fade. So episode 20. So this is a much more like kind of villain of the week, but teaches kind of Clark a lesson, and then it's all about foreshadowing for the rest of it, for what's going to happen a lot in next season. So basically, it's in Metropolis. The police are escorting an eyewitness out, and there's this random guy, and he's looking from a distance. And Clark and Chloe are talking. They're trying to get into the courthouse to watch the eyewitness testify. And Clark sees that the dude's about to get hit by a car, and he pushes the guy out of the way and saves his life. And he sees Clark's badge, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, Clark, for saving me." And then kind of like, I'll pay you back, and runs away. And then we go into the courthouse, and the guy's in a secure room, which is guarded by cops. And they close the door, and then Graham is just like, Graham is like just inside, and then kills the guy with his tie, and the police enter, and the guy's dead, and the guy Graham is just not there. So basically, we opened this up with Clark saves the life of a guy who then ends up murdering someone immediately after. And that's kind of part of the crux of this episode, is Clark, once he finds this out, dealing with this. So Clark and Martha arrive home, and Lois is playing a video game on a giant TV.
Yeah, she's playing Dynasty Warriors 5.
I was going to say, I couldn't remember. I knew it was a Dynasty Warriors game. I just didn't know which one. And there's an unsigned card, and Clark's like, "I bet you this is from Lionel." And Martha's like, "Why would he send you a gift?" To basically keep them in their lives, I guess is like what they say. But yeah, they're not sure where it is from. At the Daily Planet, Chloe tells Clark that the trial's canceled because that star witness was murdered in the basement of the courthouse, and they have no idea how. And basically, he's like, "Hey, can you help me find the records for the sale of this TV? So I can find out who gave it to him, because they sent it back to the store." And it's like, Chloe also thinks it's Lionel. And he says Martha called him and he had nothing to do with it. Chloe's like, "Do you think it's Lex?" And he's like, "No, I don't." He's like, "I'm not sure, but I'm going to go talk to Lex."
Oh, by the way, they name drop, or they reference the Milton Fine Honduras episode in this with the line when Lionel said to Chloe, that Milton Fine was in Honduras. She's like, and she reflects on it, saying that she knew, or he must have known she would like go directly to Clark with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so setting up that like Lionel's been feeding this information like through her as a filter, and now she knows that. So at the house, Lois is doing sit-ups while talking to a senator, and the guy shows up out of nowhere and scares the shit out of Lois. And he's like, I'm a friend of Clark, and it's like, I'm the one who set the television. I don't understand why you set the TV back. And she's like, well, why don't you stay here until he comes home? And then we cut over to the mansion, and Lex I don't know, is it the man? No, it's in the Metropolis, I guess, because it's the office. I don't remember. Basically, Lex enters and Lana's there waiting for him, and he's like, that basically there was no one in DC that would verify that Milton Fine even exists. And Lex and Lana confess that they missed each other, and then they begin making out, and Clark walks in, and he's like, what the shit? And basically quietly leaves without them noticing. And basically asks Chloe, like, why did you keep, like, their relationship a secret? And Chloe's like, because Lana asked me to, and she is my friend, and I told you I'm not going to get into the middle of this. And that it was your decision. Like, basically, he's like, you broke up with her. Yeah, she can date whoever she wants, even if it's, like, shitty Lex. It's interesting. Like, Chloe kind of, like stands up to Clark and being like, this is, like, don't be mad at me. This is all on you. Which is.
It's sort of Clark being possessive.
Yeah, he wants to, like, he loves her, but thinks he can't be with her, but then also doesn't want anybody else, especially Lex.
Yeah.
So we go back to the loft, and Clark is looking at a picture of Lana and smashes it, and the guy Graham walks in, and he's like, oh, why didn't you keep the TV? I drove through Smallville last year on business, so I know the area well, obviously setting up that he was there during the last meteor shower. Basically, Clark's like, you don't have to repay me. It's like, well, can I at least take you out to dinner? So at the apartment, Clark is surprised to see like there's a giant party. And he's like, yeah, I'm a headhunter. I track people down for jobs. Lois is there, and she's Graham's date. And then basically Graham's like, oh, look, here's this random girl, Gia, and I'm going to leave you over here. They flirt, and she's like, why don't we go to the bedroom? Gia kisses him, and Clark smiles, but then he realizes it's like a setup. So she's obviously, I guess, like a working girl or party girl. I don't know. They kind of just walk away from it real quick.
Because I don't.
They don't want to stick on that.
Yeah.
So Clark decides to leave, and Graham stops him, and he's like, all right, like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought, like, maybe you wanted to have somebody to get over, your girlfriend who I saw a thing. It's like, well, what if I try to get you guys back together? I'm sure things will work out, even though, like, you saw her. And he's like, yeah, but she has somebody new. He's like, oh, don't worry about that. Like, I'm sure something will happen. Bum, bum, bum. And then we go back to the mansion, and Lex is still trying to find out what the hell is going on with Fine. And then we get, like, kind of predator vision. Not predator vision, but, like, stalky vision. I don't know how you would explain that, but, like, they're trying to, like, show that there's obviously somebody else in the room. Which we kind of played with in, season 1, when that guy painted himself with the roses.
Yeah.
And so Graham appears. He tries to strangle Lex. Right when Lex is about to die, Lana shows up, and Graham pops away. They get an ambulance, and Clark arrives and sees Lana comforting Lex in the bed. And he's like, kind of like, so what's up with you guys? And she avoids it. And then she gives the description of the guy who strangled him. Clark is like, shit, it's definitely that dude. Lois is at the Talon, and Graham shows up. And basically, he's like, I thought I'd be leaving town, but, do you want to go to a Coldplay concert? Like, name drop. And she's like, oh, we don't have to go to that, but, like, we can go just on a regular day. But, I definitely would go to a concert. And then Clark goes to Graham's apartment. It's like, you tried to kill Lex, and I'm going to take you to the police. And Graham's like, no. And then Clark goes to, like, grab him and breaks a statue, basically revealing his powers. And then Graham is still holding the broken statue and makes himself invisible and then leaves. And then basically they go to the Daily Planet, and Chloe's like, I think he might be the chameleon, who's a hitman who never leaves prints, clues, or surveillance footage. which is a very terrible name for a hitman. But I think it's funny that they even like decided to give a character like this character to have like this weird nickname is just very OG WB CW.
Yeah.
And basically what we reveal is that Graham's been there the whole time listening to them.
He doesn't yet, and he hears everything, and Graham doesn't do anything to Chloe because plot. He decides to go after Clark instead.
Yeah, because Chloe says something like he might know your weakness, and he's like, huh? And
Yeah.
he's like, oh. So Lois is taking a shower, and then Graham is like stalking her, and the door shuts, and she gets out to investigate. She's naked, and she opens the bathroom door, only to find Clark standing there using his super hearing, and basically like, yeah, Graham is here. And Lois is like, the fact that like he attacks every boyfriend she's had, like referencing Arthur, and who else was it? So the only one I could think of is Aquaman. But basically she's like, you're just like being a dick and you attack every boyfriend I have. And Clark is using his super hearing to follow Graham's heartbeat, and he sees him exit the Talon, and he super speeds up to Graham, but Graham's holding a meteor rock, and basically like, basically tells him that like, oh, I have to kill you and Lex and Lana because you guys all know who I am now. I can't have that. So we cut to Lex and Lana. Like Lana's with Lex at the hospital. He gets up, and Lana's like, Clark came to visit, and he's like, can I tell Clark about? He asked her if she told him about the relationship, but then he's like, wait, somebody else is here.
I'm sorry.
He's like, oh, before he finds out for somebody else. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Lois is getting ready for a date, and Chloe enters, and she's like, yeah, Graham is a professional hitman, and Lois is like, I don't believe you, but even so, they go outside to look for Clark. Chloe calls his cell phone, and they hear it ring. And they find Clark unconscious, buried beneath some like construction equipment with a meteor rock. Chloe throws the rock away, and he gets up, and it's like Graham is going after Lex and Lana, which he's a pretty shitty like hitman if he didn't just like put a bullet into Clark.
Yeah, I mean,
or like not have his cell phone there. It's just like very convenient plot stuff. So then we go to the hospital, and Lex is like IMing Milton Fine, who's like, yeah, the virus is ready. And Lana enters the room to bring Lex a shirt. The guard outside collapses and the door opens, and Lex is like, shh, somebody's here, and grabs a gun. And he just starts randomly shooting in the room. And then he gets knocked out, and Graham pops up, and he's bleeding because Lex hit him.
I really like the effect where you just hear, or Lex is firing off the shots, and then you just see on the left hand side, you can see just a little trail of blood drops. Yeah,
it is cool to see like, oh, like only his skin, I guess. Well, no, because his clothes are invisible too, so it's weird that his blood isn't. But yeah, it is a cool look. And so Graham grabs the gun, he pulls the trigger to shoot Lex and Lana, and Clark super speeds, catches them, then Graham collapses and dies. And Lex and Lana embrace, and Clark looks on like, oh, I'm a mopey douche.
Yeah, and Lana says, Lex, you saved my life.
Yes. So the next day, Lois visits Martha at the house, and it's like, man, can I not find like the right guy? And Martha's like, oh, I went through a bunch of bad relationships before I met Jonathan. You just have to like, keep a closer look to find the right guy. And we cut right to Clark visiting Chloe. And it's like, oh, you got your first front page byline. And then this is like it's like, oh, saving strangers can get innocent people killed. And it kind of has this discussion, and Chloe's like, well, you shouldn't like apologize for like doing what you think is right. And you should also, and then Clark's like, yeah, and I'm sorry that I questioned our friendship. Like, you're right. You're in a weird position. I shouldn't put you in that. Then we cut to the loft, and Clark is disassembling his creeper telescope.
Only took, 5 years?
Yeah. And she hasn't even been there in 2 or 3? So Lana's there and is like, yeah, me and Lex are in this thing, but stay away from Lex. Like, I don't need you to protect me from him. I don't need to be protected by anybody. And basically, it's like, you're the one who broke this off.
Yeah, so it's all, if anything happened, everything is all on him.
Yeah, and she pieces out, and that is the end of our episode. it's interesting. Like, yeah, like this episode has like a lot of goofy stuff, except for the fact that like this is the beginning of the Lana Lex like full on. They're in a relationship that carries over like
2 seasons.
Yeah, 2 full seasons because it doesn't get resolved until
Season 7.
yeah, it's all of season 6, and then like early on in season 7, I think. But other than that, it's goofy. Like they could have done a better job with like addressing the idea that like saving innocent people, like random people, can like have greater consequences, but they just barely touch on it. But yeah, it's pretty good. But we will be wrapping up season 5 in our next 2 episodes. The first one being Oracle, and the second one being Vessel. And the only other tease again was that the Milton Fine thing with the virus, which is basically these has to deal with these episodes. Basically, Clark gets visited by the ghost of his dad to kill Lionel, and then Lex is trying to find a vaccine for the deadly virus that Fine is creating. And then it kind of ends with what ends up setting up the finale and the beginning of season 6. And then the last episode is just full on craziness.
God, I remember what Rosenbaum's story about the whole thing. Like he says he was talking to Stephen Miles saying, I said to Welling, guess who's getting paid double pay? And Welling's like, who? And Rosenbaum says, me. And Welling's like, why? Rosenbaum says, because I'm playing Lex and spoiler.
Yes.
And he never actually like that. He didn't actually.
No, he was just messing with him. But yeah, so next episode will be the wrap up of season 5.
I brought some clips.
Yep.
First, for Oracle, which just to give a little preview for Oracle, it's hit Clark's birthday, and in the clip, Lois and Chloe visit Clark on the farm and start to have a heart to heart with him. And then with Vessel, it's just thank God people thank God the official trailers are still on.
Look, sometimes you gotta tuck your feelings away until it's the right time. Like stuffing dollars into a piggy bank for a bike you can't quite afford.
Except I can't quite imagine there is anyone else out there.
Well, you never know, Clark. Maybe when you finally crack open that piggy bank, you'll find that all this time you haven't been saving for a bike. You've really been saving for a Harley.
There are times when I think you don't know me at all. And others where I think you know me better than anyone.
No, that's what I'm here for, Smallville. One save at a time.
All of the world's major cities are going to be infiltrated within a few hours.
Everything has an opposite.
You've been chosen.
Light and dark.
He now has the same powers as you.
Good
Clark, there's no use. You can't save everyone.
and evil.
I gotta kill Lex.
So what did you decide, Clark? Are you gonna kill me?
The Smallville season finale on the WB Thursday.
Line. So
Yeah. And then, we'll have to figure out something to do in between seasons like we have been doing. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up. So for me, don't forget to check out all of the other shows. We just did a new episode of The Comic Show where we talk about the news, but we also read the first half of Venom Lethal Protector, which is the perfect palate cleanser to the dense insanity that is Crisis on Infinite Earths. And check all that stuff out. What do you have, Al?
So, by the time this episode comes out, the most recent episode of VGU.TV Players Club podcast will be out, where Emma and I talk about all the delays, or about nearly every game that's big getting delayed to further on in the year.
Ah, yes. Like Avengers. I'm trying to think what the other big games were.
Avengers, Doom, Last of Us, Final Fantasy, Dying Light, Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it seems like they all got delayed to be maybe like launch releases for the new system. So let's check out VGU.
We also got into the whole crunch atmosphere.
Oh, it's like how to finish out games, like the crunching.
Yeah, like how like a lot of developers are like, despite delaying the game, they're going to be in like even more crunch mode.
Mm-hmm.
As for BG.TV, my top 9 games of the decade is up.
Oh, wow.
And as for the YouTube channel, expect to see Emmett's Extra Life stream broken up into bits. So,
All right, that's awesome. So we will catch you guys next time. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
and I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, American Life.